One of the perks about what I do is that occasionally I'll get to check out a toy sometimes months before it hits the market, and it's a really cool opportunity that I really don't take for granted. The downside is sometimes because they're so far away from production that they haven't worked out all the kinks yet, or there's no packaging, or gimmicks aren't done yet, so it makes reviewing these things somewhat difficult, but it's fun. So in this case, we are looking at the Threezero Scopedog from the anime Armored Trooper Votoms. I've reviewed a bunch of Scopedog toys over the years at CollectionDX.com, so I have a pretty good idea on what should be included in a Scopedog, and what kind of gimmicks and features and things like that. The Scopedog also has a pilot figure named Trico Kuvi that I will review in addition to that. That said, let's get into the nitty-gritty and see what's up. Alright, so the first thing I want to let you know is that this Scopedog is due out in February 2017, so that's what, 4 months from now, just about. So it's got a little ways before it comes out. It's also going to have a hefty price tag of $450 US. That includes the 1/12 scale Scopedog, the Trico figure, weapon, and various little accessories. It is a lot of money, but if you've watched my other reviews of Threezero products, you'll know that it isn't really anything unusual for those products. There is also going to be a limited direct version which will have more of a weathered paint job than this one. Alright, now the review. He's made out of all plastic. Just get that out of the way. There are no electronics or anything like that. He has a rotating head. Visor can open. The visor can, the eye assembly can slide back and forth, and it also rotates. And for some reason, this dial itself also rotates. So, I mean, that's really nice. I like there's little weathering and rivets and things like that. There's also a little. This is actually, I believe this is actually a painted detail, but it's painted to be like it frequently moves across. I believe that's what's going on here. The whole cockpit assembly comes up like so on pistons, and you can see that there's just a ton of detail, inside. Get a good look at that there. I mean, there's a lot of detail inside here. The headrest collapses for, when he's not in there, I guess. It has a tendency to come down forward, but once again, pre-production, wouldn't worry too much about it. Each of these controls moves. The whole thing moves forward and backwards. And these actually also move on the stem. There are actual hoses that move, and you can actually get access to this whole assembly through there. You can see the hoses continue throughout the bottom. The shoulders have a great range of motion, and they all have little loops here that move as well. So there's a few points here. One is you have your shoulder armor, okay, and then you have underneath the shoulder armor you have this joint, but you also have like a combined joint there, and what that's for is so when you have the arm forward to hold the part of the gun, you have that extra range of motion. So it's kind of interesting to see how that works. Just tight balls there, no clicks at that point. You have this part swivels. The elbow is a double jointed elbow, so you get a real nice range of motion. There's some clicky in there, some clicky bits in there. And the wrist, again, is on a tight ball joint, and every finger is individually jointed. These pieces kind of come up. They don't attach, but they will loose. I don't know what that is. And these are on hinges. Alright, if you know Votoms at all, you know that the hand has sort of a rocket, it's not a rocket punch, it's more like a hydraulic punch that just kind of springs forward with a little bit of extra punch. In some versions that has been of the toy, it's been spring-loaded. In some versions of the toy, it's been omitted. Threezero has done it, but there is no spring-loaded gimmick in the punch. There is an interesting way to activate it, which is a bit roundabout. So to activate the mechanism, there's a pin that goes through here. It's actually one of these ammo clips. There's an activated button, so you just push up, it shoots out, and now you can show the fist. But this fist itself, that action is not a spring-loaded action. So if you want to rearm it, you click it back up, and it will just stay in place. But you just lock it in place with an ammo clip. Both arms do feature the same punching act. Let's see what else we got to show you. Nice waist joint. If you had the Amato version, you'd know that you'd turn this a certain way and the whole thing would fall apart. This one is reasonably solid. It doesn't, come apart. I'll also show you the back of the figure. It has these two hooks here, which I believe is for the bazooka, which is not included with the set, so perhaps there'll be an accessory set or something down the road. This one has no bazooka, and I don't think that the weapon can really be stored well. Yeah, really not. It's really nothing you can do with the gun to put it back. And there's also a little compartment here that opens. A little mechanical detail back there. Not quite sure what the purpose of that is, but we're gonna go with it. All the skirts move on each side, and you have the choice on the side of individual ammo clips or an ammo box, and they just plug in and out. There's no real, it's just held in with friction. It is rather tight, and it's nice. The ammo box have little movable handles on them. Just sort of plug back in. For the legs, I mentioned again, you have the fully movable skirt pieces, and this will allow you to have a good idea of what the articulation here is really like. It is about to there or so, and you can go. These joints are actually really tight. There is a note that came with the sample that said that this will move a little easier on the production version, but as of right now, you don't really have to worry about it not holding a pose. So I mean, it's some really nice joint work there. You've got the flaps here on the front. This one comes off easy, so if you see this floating around during the transformation into down mode, you'll know why. It needs to be adhered better. I'm sure it's something they'll fix in the other version. It has the working spikes. This is so when it's zooming along and it wants to do like a hairpin turn or something, it can put these spikes down. And here's a nice feature that I really appreciate is the wheels. Check this out. So the wheels, the toes are up, the wheels can move. Click it back, wheel is hidden. I find that very cool. So one of the key gimmicks to any Scopedog toy is the down form. What that means is that it's basically kind of a crouching mode that is so the pilot can enter the cockpit easily. And it's made by bending the legs around in a kind of unusual contortion. This version does that, but the paperwork that I got, I'll actually show you the paperwork I got. It may be a little bit difficult in transforming crunching mode in this pre-production sample. It will be more user-friendly in this function in final product. So basically it's saying that, look, at this point, we're still 4 months out. We haven't quite got it nailed down. It does do it. It may seem clanky the way I'm doing it, but rest assured it'll be smoother when the regular version comes out. Let's go through what it will be like, because I mean essentially it does it. It just may not be as smooth as one would like. So the first thing we need to do is make sure everything is lined up nice and square. The legs are, into each other, and then we take these things here, these side skirts. You just pull them out a little. And then what we do into here with the legs, it's actually an extra joint in here where we come down just a little bit. And then we want to make sure that this skirt in the back is up. So the first thing we do is go back with these pretty much as far as we can. And then the legs go down. There's another joint right here that needs to go up. So you gotta just basically work it. Essentially what we'll get is a sort of a down form. I don't want to force it too much. There we go, you can see what you're gonna get. Like this, where it basically is down on the ground and ready to be boarded by Threezero, which is the subject of the next part of our discussion. So here's the pilot figure, Threezero. I'm using a Tamashii stand to hold him up because I'm going to be handling him a lot. I don't want him to continually fall over on me. No stand, this stand is not included. This is a Bandai Tamashii stand. You may want to invest in one, but does not come with the set. So this figure is, 1/12 scale, and he is, if you've had other 1/12 scale Threezero figures, you kind of know what you're in for in terms of you have a basic body with a cloth covering. In this case, it's like a thin vinyl coating. You can see Velcro in the back. He's got a series of rubber armor bits. And when I say rubber, it's rubber. I mean, it's very flexible. And I actually broke this one off and I had to repair the joint with some super glue. I do have serious concerns about the long-term survival of these figures, especially with the construction and the rubber, any dry rot. These little hoses are all gonna get dry and snap at some point, but you have a few good years with it. It comes with a sidearm, which is very tight in the holster. And the thing about this stuff is that it's so fragile that if something is tight, like, you don't want to force it because you don't know what you're gonna break. There we go. I mean, it feels like it's a cloth holster. It almost feels leathery. Has a nice sidearm. The helmet is not removable, as in there is no human face underneath it. It is also very soft and rubbery as well. It's on a ball joint. The breathing hose is attached. I mean, it looks really good. It looks nice. I am just not a fan of this kind of action figure construction. I like my action figures to be solid, like a Figma or a Star Wars Black Series, something that has noticeable joints that you can click and that's obvious in the direction that they're supposed to go in, and they're not quite as fragile as these are. This is an okay figure, but once again, being pre-production, it has some issues, mainly in the feet, as in they don't like to stay on. And when you try to put it in the cockpit, they go all over the place. There you go. So they just sort of come off very easily. I do hope that Threezero works on improving the feet of their figures, because its feet and hands are similar problems I've had with, for example, the Titanfall figures. Those also had iffy feet and hands. Threezero does come with some variant hands, which kind of have the consistency of gummy bears. It's very... Hear that? That squidgy noise? There is, like I said, a long-term dry rot condition, sort of. From what I've seen in my toy collecting experience, you've got like a good 10 to 12 years before you see any issues with rubber parts on toys. The rubber can interact with the things that you store them in. So rubber and styrofoam, they melt. Rubber in a plastic baggie, they might sort of outgas and get film on the outside of them. Rubber in contact with another piece of the same may melt or stick or get sticky over years. So it's not an ideal medium for long-term toy storage, in my opinion. And here's where I start swearing, because I have to get this guy into that cockpit. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out the hands, because he does have some holding hands that will go on the controls. So let's do that first. I like that they're easy to swap out. Okay. See what I mean about this? Sort of like I would like this to lock in somehow, or to do something. It only gets supported by the head, basically. To make this process easier, I usually open this door. I lift these handles up, and I pull this back. And I begin by trying to get him in a seated position, but the jumpsuit makes it somewhat difficult. So let's see what I can do here. See, the feet are already getting a little like. Oh, how's it going? Alright, so the feet, you can see where I'm at. The feet are already jammed into the bottom here. So these feet are just going to get really in the way. This piece is already flipping up. And then this comes forward. Notice how tight now this is. You know, if this was a real thing that someone had to pilot, I mean, it would be useless being pushed right up against your crotch and rubbing against your legs. There's just no room for dynamic movement in there. But you can sort of get him in. It looks good, but once again, the feet are all like, it just, there's nothing to do with the feet. I actually think, I mean, although it is 1/12 scale, I think he's too big for this cockpit, just from based on what I remember seeing in the anime. But he's there, he's in. You can close this up around him, and you can see him through the hole in the front there. And there he is, never to be seen again. Okay, well, Trico's being crushed to death in his cockpit. Let's look at the gun. A couple of ammo canisters. This is the base part of the gun, and there is a couple of movable loops here. It's a real fabric strap, which is really cool. It has the pivoting arm piece. This switch actually works. You can actually change its position. One thing that is in the instructions, they said that is not included with the final product, but I'll show you anyways, is that this pin is removable. So to take that part of the gun off, you can use this. It actually comes with this metal piece and tells you to use it to push the pin out from the other side, which I have to apparently continue to. There we go. It's a little metal pin, like so. And that's just the, I don't know the purpose of that coming out like that, but there you go. Apparently you won't have to do that on the real version. There are two different gun barrels that you can use. You have the long barrel, like so, which actually has a little rattle to it, so that's something I hope is firmed up in the production release. And has the short barrel, no rattle. You can also attach the ammo box to the side. Oh, that stuck to my finger, not the ammo box. That one's a little loose. That one's better. So you get the ammo box, and then with the strap you can put it over the shoulder of the Scopedog. So before I use the gun, I just want to show you, see this little space? Like the figure in there is just making it not enough room, so guess what? You're coming out. And now you can see what happens here. It comes out this way. Oh, look, no foot. Gotta get the foot out. Oh, fuck it, foot's staying in. Alright. So, using the gun, kind of go over the shoulder here. There's no peg here. You just gotta wrap the fingers around it. There is room for the trigger finger, which I should have extended the fingers before I did. So you can see he can hold the gun pretty well. But I put that on there so it looks like a gun. Alright, so you can see what's going on there. It looks pretty good. Let's swap that barrel out with something better. And I mentioned that extra arm reach before. So that's what's going on here. You can get one of these things going on. It's funny, when you're posing this, it actually feels like you're posing a movie prop more than a toy. But it is really, really great. And it's been several years since Yamato did their version of the Scopedog, and the Yamato version was definitely more toy-like in that, you know, you had more removable panels, you had, I don't know, a little more, the construction was a little more toy-like, but it wasn't as nice as this one. It really just, this one, the detail, the level of detail and weathering on this is phenomenal. The construction is really good. I like the tampo printing on it is special. Yeah, I'm generally happy with it. Whether or not it's going to be worth the money to you, that's going to come down to you and your wallet. But it is a super nice piece. It's really good. Now, I hope that, I mean, there are a few small flaws with the figure. One being the overly stiff joints. Two, the leg flap the foot flap that tends to pop off sometimes. The big thing for me is the Threezero figure, that I am just not a fan of the way that they do their 1/12 scale figures. Now, this is not a figure that you will probably be taking in and out on a repeat basis, so I guess it's fine that you will only do it, you know, once or twice, but I'm just not a fan. I'd rather have a regular action figure. So, as I was saying before, thank you to Threezero for this pre-production sample. Some of the issues and features may change between now and the release date in February of 2017. You can get more information at Threezero store or on Threezero web Facebook page. And yeah, it's a beautiful piece that is going to look good in anybody's mecha collection. It's just whether or not you want to pay the price for such a glorious display piece. This is Josh at CollectionDX. We'll see you next time.